You are watching the Commanders Report live show here on a beautiful Thursday where we got a great slate of Washington Commanders news and rumors content coming your way here over the next hour or so. First up, we're going to talk about the latest news and rumors surrounding your Washington Commanders. The ESPN's crew, they did a stat projection for Jayden Daniels' rookie season, so we'll go over that. Also, some other rumors to discuss today. Then also, the Commanders' offseason grades. That's right. I'm going to take every single phase of the Commanders' offseason, everything from front office and coaching hires to free agency to the draft, everything. I'm going to be giving each individual phase a grade, and then I'm going to finish up by giving you guys my official 2024 offseason grade for the Washington Commanders. And as always, we got the Commanders Report live Q&A, our mailbag today. So if you want to have your voice heard on the show today, all you got to do is use hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat right now, along with your question, and you can get your question on the show, or you guys can super chat. So super chatting is really appreciated, guys. We really do appreciate everybody that supports the channel. And if you super chat, you are guaranteed to get on the mailbag later in today's show. So for all the real ones watching right now, I want to know, where are you watching the show from? For a shout out right now to kick off today's show, let me know down there in the comments section, where are you watching the show? I see Braden is here. We got 64 people watching right now. Let me know where you're watching the show from here, and I will give you a shout out. And with that, we'll bring in our producer here today. Mr. Trizzy Trace is back. What's up, Tracy? You having a good Thursday?
Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? Good to be back with you, Spare Dog. It's going to be a fun Thursday with the Commanders fans in this beautiful day.
Absolutely. We got Omar's Burner here saying he's coming from my couch. We got Mike Lee from Elko, Nevada. We got Braden from Maryland. We got Cassie Voth. Everyone say hi to Cassie, my girlfriend, in the chat. She's from Dallas. We got Steven from Maryland, outside of D.C. If you want a shout out, keep putting in those locations down there in the live chat. I don't know about you, Triz, but I'm having a pretty darn good Thursday. You know, the weekend is coming up here pretty soon. NBA basketball tonight. Let me know right now, Trace, who do you got in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals?
So I'm going to take the Celtics versus the Timberwolves. I think that the T-Wolves are just so damn hot right now, and I think that the Celtics are such a good team. So I'm going to pick Celtics versus T-Wolves, and I think the Celtics will edge them out.
Okay,
in the finals.
I like it. Okay, so for me personally, I'd probably pick probably Celtics. But me being a Minnesota native, I gotta cheer for my Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, man, how good is that guy, man? He hasn't actually played that well the last two games for the T-Wolves, but he's getting a little bit tired, so it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out there. Here's our Super Chat menu today. So if you Super Chat today, you might be able to purchase one of these two things. Any Super Chat, you're going to be able to get a shout-out on the show, and also you guarantee that your question gets on the mailbag today. If you just use hashtag Commanders, that's another way to get a question on the show, but then, you're leaving it up to Trace. Sometimes he can be discriminatory if you're not nice to him down there in the comments section. And then today, once again, we've got the Bean-Boozled jelly beans. These things are just absolutely disgusting, but you know what? We decided to bring them back this week. $10 super chats. Let's read some of the flavors here, Triz. We got Old Bandage, Stinky Socks, Barf, Dirty Dishwater, Dead Fish, Booger, Rotten Egg, Liver and Onions, and Stink Bug. All right, so $10 super chats today. We'll do those Bean-Boozleds. And then $20 super chats today. You get your name on the F Cowboys hat. You want to show that off for the people there, Triz?
Here we go. You got to see this. It's awesome.
Got the F the Cowboys on there.
The Cowboys.
So we got quite a few names on there already, but we got the Sharpie ready to go. So if you want to get your name on the hat, $20 super chat, we'll be able to get that done for you guys. All right, so now, I want to do something that we have never done here on the channel, and I want to break new ground here on the Commanders Report, where I want to break the chat rate record for the Washington Commanders Report here at Chat Sports. Now, if you don't know what chat rate means, it means how many comments can we get in there in 60 seconds, all right? So I see 60 people down there right now. I want you guys to spam the letter W down there as many times as you can for the next 60 seconds, all right? Let's get it going right now.
Go,
and I'll tell you right now.
Faster.
I'll tell you right now, if we break the record, I will do a Bean-Boozled jelly bean for free right now. So spam those W's down there in the comment section. Get as many as you can. If we break the record, I will do a Bean-Boozled jelly bean to kick off today's show. I'm right there with you. I'm spamming those W's. Spam those W's as many times as you can. We got 45 seconds here. Keep them coming. Keep those W's coming. Break the record.
Faster.
Come on, folks. We need to get going. We need to start this show off on the right foot. Spam those W's down there in the chat. Come on now. 30 more seconds. I see Mike Lee. I see Oliver. I see Braden. I see Cassie. I see Patrick. I see Tim. I see Lamont. I see Belgium. I see Mike. I see Team. Keep them coming, folks. We got Belgium again. We got Cassie down there putting her W's in there. We got Braden. We got Mike. We got Patrick. We got Lamont. We got Braden. We got Easy T. Come on.
Faster.
One of these beans has my name on it, folks. Keep those W's coming for 10 more seconds. Come on, break the record. Come on.
Go.
I see Patrick, Lee, Bradley, Braden, Richard, Mike, Cassie, Tim, Courtney, and we did it. I think we just got there, folks. We did. Our chat rate record just got broken here on the Commanders report. So that means I gotta do one of these beans here, Triz.
That's unfortunate.
Okay, so I got the brown one here. What's the brown one again? Oh, it's liver and onions.
Good luck.
So it's better than like barf or Old Band-Aid or
not much better.
But you wouldn't think liver and onions would be that bad of a flavor, but it's actually one of the worst ones if I'm being honest with you.
It's bad.
All right.
Good luck, buddy. You got it. Trash can right here if you need.
No, you know the rules. You gotta finish it.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
Bad news bears.
It's the best way to start a show with a terrible tasting jelly bean. All right, click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. We got 58 people watching. 20 people have liked the show. Coming up here in about 20 seconds or so, we're going to get into the latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders. Then I will get into my offseason grades for the Commanders this offseason, and then we're going to finish up the show today with the Commanders Report Q&A, the live mailbag. Make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to make sure you guys get on today's mailbag. Really do appreciate all your support. Triz, are we ready to get things going here with our first segment today?
Having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we're trying to work around it.
Yeah, our studio is being a little bit glitchy today, so we're gonna make do with what we got here. But coming up here, we got the latest news and rumors. We got a bunch of great stuff to talk about today, man. ESPN put out their rookie stat projections for all the top rookies, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Emmanuel Forbes has a new role on the Commanders, which is very interesting that we'll talk about here. And then also there's a boom or bust candidate on the Washington Commanders roster that's very interesting to me. That we'll talk about at the end of that news and rumors segment. So, Triz, are we ready to get things going here? Give you one more second here. Take one more drink. I see Gerald Hood down in the chat. I see IQ Barbecue. What's up, IQ? Good to see you, my friend. We got John here. We got Commanders Productions. We got Belgium. Hope I'm saying that right, by the way. Bilglum? Big Lum? I don't know. Then we got Lamont. We got Cassie. We got Braden. We got Tim, and we got Patrick. All right, Triz is giving me the signal that we're ready to get things going here with our first segment here on the Commanders Report. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about Emmanuel Forbes' new role with the Washington Commanders. Definitely an interesting kind of position that Dan Quinn, the new head coach, is putting Forbes in this year. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Then also, ESPN put out their rookie projections for all the top rookie quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. So we're going to talk about their projections for Washington Commanders' new quarterback, Jayden Daniels. Then we're going to finish up today's show by talking about a boom or bust Commanders wide receiver that I think is very interesting going into the 2024 campaign. So let me know down there in the comments section if you are ready for 2024. Type raise hail down there in the comments section if you are pumped up for the 2024 campaign. Really do appreciate all of your support. And now let's get into our top story today, which is going to be talking about Emmanuel Forbes, who of course was the 16th overall pick in last year's NFL draft. Cornerback out of Mississippi State, had really a rough rookie season, but he's been trying out at kind of kickoff and punt return man for special teams here during the early portions of Commanders OTAs. And honestly, guys, I think that this is a pretty interesting idea. If you followed Forbes' college career, he had a number of pick sixes. So not only was he able to have that nose for the football and the ball skills to catch it, but also he had the return ability and the vision to be able to find open grass and score those touchdowns. And I think that this is definitely an interesting idea. Now, the Washington Commanders do have Jamison Crowder on the roster right now, and he is somebody that I thought did a pretty darn good job as a return man last year for the Washington Commanders. And, you know, he is getting a little bit older. Maybe you feel like Forbes is going to be a little bit more of a, younger option that can be your kickoff and punt return man for a long time, whereas Crowder is kind of on the decline, whatever the case may be. But I definitely think it's going to be an interesting competition, and I do like the approach from new head coach Dan Quinn, saying, you know what, we have these guys that are talented and have unique skill sets like Emmanuel Forbes. We're going to use them in every single way that we can. We're going to try them out at a bunch of different spots and see what sticks and really try to make the most out of the talent we have in the locker room right now. So let me know down there in the comments section, who would you rather see return kicks and punts for the Washington Commanders in 2024? Give me an EF if you want Emmanuel Forbes, or JC if you want Jamison Crowder. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So now let's talk about ESPN's rookie stat projections for number 2 overall pick in the new Commanders franchise quarterback, Jayden Daniels. This comes to us from Mike Clay. Now, he projects that Daniels is going to play 15 games this year, and this is the stat projections that they have for the new Commanders quarterback. Over 3,500 yards passing with 19 pass touchdowns, 577 rushing yards with an additional 5 rushing touchdowns to go with the 19 passing touchdowns for a total of 24 touchdowns in 15 games started. So Clay is projecting here that Marcus Mariota is going to start the first 2 games of the regular season. And I just don't think that that's probably going to happen, okay? Because that is the catch when it comes to these projections, right? And it doesn't really come up with the whole, it doesn't really paint an entire picture as to what I think Jayden Daniels is going to be able to do in his rookie season, because I do think he is going to be able to play all 17 games and start week 1 over Marcus Mariota. I think we all understand that Jayden is the future of this football team, and I think we also understand that Marcus Mariota isn't the best quarterback in the world either. So I think, if you're Dan Quinn, if you're Cliff Kingsbury, and you're the Commanders, you want Jayden Daniels to get there as soon as possible and kind of get his feet wet in the National Football League. So if he plays all 17 games, and we account for the projections from Mike Clay on a per-game basis, this is what his stats would look like in a full 17-game schedule. So he gets to almost 4,000 yards passing. He gets to 22 passing touchdowns, 654 yards on the ground with an additional 6 touchdowns on the ground. So to put this in perspective here, let's take a look at C.J. Stroud's numbers from last year. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and let's compare his numbers to what ESPN is projecting for Jayden Daniels in a 17-game schedule. So yes, C.J. Stroud was sitting for the first couple games last year with those 15 games started. And so, obviously that skews these numbers just a little bit, but you look at the numbers here and it's very comparable between these two guys. Now, Stroud had one of the best, if not the best, rookie season for a quarterback in NFL history, and Jayden Daniels is kind of matching him almost step for step. Now, Stroud has slightly more passing yards. He has one more passing touchdown, but you look at the total yards and total touchdowns, Jayden Daniels would actually be more productive both as a passer plus the run game than C.J. Stroud was last season in 2023. And if Jayden Daniels can put up these kinds of numbers where he's putting up almost 4,000 yards passing, where he has 28 total touchdowns, that's going to put him in the driver's seat to be this year's Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, I have big expectations for Caleb Williams in his first year with Chicago as well. It's going to be very tough to take that trophy away from him, in my opinion, especially with as much help as Williams has there in the Windy City. But man, Daniels is definitely a talented individual, and I do think he's going to be able to put up some pretty big numbers in his rookie season and really be impressive for this football team. Now, coming up here, we got a Commanders wide receiver that has been deemed boom or bust. I'm going to let you guys know who that is and whether or not I think they're going to boom or if I think they're going to bust in 2024. But before we get into it, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you can get your officially licensed, number 5 Commanders Jayden Daniels jersey from our friends at Fanatics when you use our link, chatsports.com/Daniels today. I'm going to put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. If you use that link, Fanatics will know that we sent you. So if you want to support the channel here and you want to get a Jayden Daniels jersey in your closet, go ahead and go to chatsports.com/Daniels today to get this jersey in your closet right now. All right, so now let's talk about Johan Dotson, okay? Because he has been deemed kind of like the boom or bust player for the Washington Commanders by Yardbarker here. And I wanted to talk about Johan specifically because I think he's a very intriguing player because he had a really kind of nice and optimistic rookie season, led the team in touchdown receptions. But then last year, out of nowhere, he had some drop issues. He wasn't the most productive guy out there. And now he's going into a very, very important year 3 for himself and for his future prospects as a legitimate receiving weapon. This is what Bruce Ewing from Yardbarker had to say about Johan Dotson. Washington hoped Dotson would do better than 520 yards and 5.5 touchdowns per year when they took him with the 16th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. If Dotson can improve on his 2023 season, he can look forward to losing snaps to Luke McCaffrey, the team's third-round pick in 2024. Now, personally, guys, I believe in Johan Dotson's ability. I had him graded as a first-round receiver back a couple years back when he got drafted, and I thought, it was fine for the Commanders to take him at the 16th overall pick a few years back. And I do think he's still talented enough to be a very good number 2 wide receiver option to Terry McLaurin, who is, of course, the number 1 alpha type in this wide receiver room right now. Johan's got a lot of the things that you look for in a really top number 2 wide receiver. He might not be the biggest guy in the world, and he doesn't have the biggest catch radius, but he's got really solid hands, or at least he did before last season. He's a really crisp route runner. He's very savvy in the red zone. I think when you pair him up with Jayden Daniels this year, he's going to really flourish, and I think we're going to see more of what we thought we were going to see last year in year 2 than what we actually saw from him in year 2 with Sam Howell throwing him the football. And as far as Luke McCaffrey goes, when it comes to him taking reps and taking things away from Johan Dotson, I just don't think that that's going to happen, especially in this first year where McCaffrey is getting his feet wet with the Washington Commanders and the National Football League at large. Plus, even if McCaffrey gets on the field, I don't think it's going to take time away from Dotson, because we know Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, likes to do all these different things with 4 wide receiver sets, 3 wide receiver sets. So it's not like they only have 2 receivers out there and just Dotson or McCaffrey can be out there. I just don't see Dotson losing any time to Luke McCaffrey, at least this season. So who's going to have the better career? Let me know down there in the comments section. Do you think Johan Dotson has the better career, type JD, or do you think Luke McCaffrey, the 3rd-round pick for the Commanders this year, kind of comes out of nowhere and really follows in the footsteps of his family members that have really had success in the National Football League? Type LM for Luke McCaffrey if you think he's going to be pretty darn good in the National Football League. For me, guys, I'm going to say Johan Dotson. I think that Dotson is absolutely the real deal. I think last year was definitely a down year, and he was somebody that, kind of got screwed by the whole situation with the offense here in Washington. I think he gets it back on track here in 2024. So let me know. So now let's shift to the last kind of segment here for today's show, which is that Sports Illustrated kind of put out their rankings of the top 32 NFL offensive lines, and they ranked the Washington Commanders offensive line dead last heading into the 2024 season. And, I wish I could stand up here and say, man, SI did Washington dirty, and I disagree with this take. But I don't. I think that, the Washington Commanders, and you guys know this if you've been watching the channel, I'm not a big fan of this Washington Commanders offensive line. And I said this last year, by the way, guys. I got ripped for saying that this offensive line was going to be terrible last season. And then, of course, that's what ended up happening. And this year, I have a very similar feeling. Because you got Cornelius Lucas, who's never really been a full-time starter in the league. Neither is Nick Allegretti. So the left side of your offensive line is definitely looking shaky at best. Tyler Biadasz, I think, is fine, but he's more of a Band-Aid. He's not a long-term option at center, in my opinion. Then you got Sam Cosmi, who's the rock on this offensive line. He's like the only all-pro caliber player on this offensive line right now, in my opinion. Then you got Andrew Wiley, who gave up 9 sacks last year, and you're paying him all this money, so he has to start at right tackle. But, when you're stacking this offensive line up against the rest of the National Football League, I can't exactly say I blame Sports Illustrated for saying that this is probably the worst group in the entire league at this point. And as we know, it's very hard to be productive on offense without a good offensive line, or at least a serviceable one. And listen, man, I'm hoping Brandon Coleman, who they took in the 3rd round, really flourishes in year 1. I'm hoping Nick Allegretti takes this opportunity to be a full-time starter for the first time in his career and run with it, and he's awesome. I'm really hoping that Andrew Wiley can turn things around here in Washington. But, man, as an objective kind of, person that just looks at what these guys have done and what we can expect from them, I can't say I'm exactly, enthused with this group at this point in the process. Now, let me know, true or false, down there in the comments section. The Commanders have a bottom 5 offensive line in football. Type true if you're with me and think this offensive line has some pretty major holes, or type false if you think that they're better than I'm saying and you think that I'm kind of underrating this unit at this point in time. That'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors by Chat Sports. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now for free and daily Commanders News and Rumors coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. First segment in the books, Mr. Triz. And coming up here, I've got my Commanders Report offseason grades to come, and we still have the Commanders Report mailbag that's going to be coming up later. So if you guys want to get a question on today's mailbag, use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your question on the show.
Still plenty of good content coming.
Plenty of good stuff coming. If you guys have a question, please make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders, because we can't see your question unless you use hashtag Commanders in your reply, whatever you guys want to call it down there in the live chat. So give me your thoughts there on some of the things we talked about there in the first segment there.
So I definitely think that Johan Dotson is in the position where he could be a boom or bust player. And I think that he has a better opportunity to boom than he does to bust.
Sure. Yeah.
I think Luke McCaffrey can be a serviceable, slot, a good option. But I think that wide receiver 1, and obviously Terry McLaurin.
Yep, he's awesome.
But you want Johan Dotson to be that complement to Terry McLaurin.
What did you think of the stat projections for Jayden Daniels? 4,000 yards passing.
A lot.
That's an excellent rookie season.
I don't want to say it's impossible. I like to be optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
And by the
4,000 yards.
And by the way, he's going to have to do that behind what is probably going to be one of, if not the worst offensive line in the game.
And you can't win if you can't win in the trenches.
Yeah, he's going to have some good weapons, right? He's going to have some guys to throw to, but it's somebody that was there at LSU. He had really good protection all the time. He had great receivers. A lot of things were served up on a silver platter for him. Okay,
no
it doesn't mean everything was perfect, and it doesn't mean he didn't play well when things weren't perfect.
No doubt.
But it's going to be a whole nother beast for him in the National Football League when this is going to be, let's just call it what it is, a bad offensive line, most likely, unless something kind of unforeseen happens. And a rookie quarterback coming in, not used to that kind of pressure. I do worry that he's probably not going to be as productive as maybe Mike Clay from ESPN is hoping that he's going to be. Don't get me wrong. I think we're going to see a lot of good stuff from Jayden Daniels this year, and I think he is going to be the franchise quarterback of this team if he stays healthy. But, like, are we making it a little bit too much of an expectation for him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year with those kinds of projections?
Yeah, I mean, the passing numbers are a little too high for me, but I could see him having really, really good rushing numbers.
Sure, yeah, the rushing numbers I got no issue with.
Like, I think that he could be a guy who just makes it work. He's slippery. The defenses won't know how to kind of contain him and, take him down and whatnot. And I think with the bad offensive line, it's a recipe for scramble, run, and go.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, man. I actually think that he might be the leading rusher among rookies this year, and that includes running backs.
Yeah, that's not something that's too far-fetched.
It wouldn't shock me. I'm not going to say he gets to 1,000 yards rushing, but it wouldn't shock me if he gets close.
Yeah, I think 600 yards, very, very.
I would say I would be disappointed if he got less than 600.
Yeah.
For sure, Like, he's just so talented in that regard. I think that one of the best things and one of the most advantageous kind of matchups that you can have with this offense right now, because your offensive line stinks, because you're not going to have a lot of time to kind of sit back there and do drop-back passing stuff, is, you can do the read option run game, and that's something where you add another member to the box there. You get the numbers advantage. It's way harder for defenses to figure out that way. So I think that Jayden Daniels, I think that probably the biggest thing with him in year one will be his legs and how awesome he is in that regard. But as a passer, 4,000 yards, that's
so high.
I love Jayden. I think that, he's actually relatively polished, and with a good offensive line, maybe he's able to do something like that. But, we saw it with Sam Howell last year with constantly under pressure. It's so hard to play, advantageous football when you're constantly under pressure. And unfortunately, I think that's probably going to be the case for Jayden Daniels this year.
And I'll add on top of that, that just goes back to the original question of can Johan Dotson be a boom or bust player? Can he boom this year? If he can boom, that'll be very, very helpful for Jayden Daniels. If he's bad, then that's one less weapon that he can't have.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that, my friend. So, all right, coming up here, I got my off-season grades. Can we show the Super Chat menu real quick here before we get into the next segment here? So if you're just joining us, any Super Chat, you get a shout-out on the show. You get your question at the top of the mailbag today if you have a question. And then also $10 Super Chats today. We still haven't gotten our first Super Chat today, but if we get our first 10 here, we're going to be doing these Bean-Boozled jelly beans. These things taste absolutely atrocious. I already had one today. I had a liver and onions one, which was absolutely terrible. And then we got the F the Cowboys hat. So if you want to get your name on the F the Cowboys hat today, $20 Super Chat, and we'll put that name on the hat. All right, Triz, are we ready to get to this next segment here? I got my off-season grades for the Washington Commanders coming your way. I'm going to be grading every hire with the coaching staff, well, pretty much all of them. Then we're going to be doing free agency. Then we'll do draft. And then I got some final thoughts with my overall off-season grade as well. This one's going to be a beast, so get ready. It's coming your way right here on the Commanders Report. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today on the show, I've got my 2024 offseason grades for the Washington Commanders. So we're going to go through the entire offseason, from the front office and coaching hires to NFL free agency to the draft. I'm going to be breaking it all down, and then at the end of today's show, I'll give you my official final 2024 offseason grade for your Washington Commanders. Now, before we get into that, make sure you click that thumbs up icon. If you've liked what GM Adam Peters has done with this roster here in 2024, if you approve of the offseason that the Commanders have had, go ahead and click that thumbs up icon for me right now. Okay, so first up here, we're going to talk about the GM, because that was the first thing that the Commanders did, was hire a new GM, and that ended up being Adam Peters. And I'm going to give it an A, okay, because in terms of the pedigree, in terms of the resume, it's just you weren't going to find a guy with more credentials than Adam Peters. He comes from the San Francisco 49ers. He learned under John Lynch, who's one of the best GMs in football. I have absolutely no qualms about Adam Peters and that hire and that decision. He also seems like he has a very level-headed personality. He's not going to let his emotions get the best of him. He's certainly somebody that seems like he's the same every day, and he makes solid decisions. So I have no problems with getting Adam Peters. I'll give that one an A. Then we got Dan Quinn, the head coach, and I'm going to give this an A-. The only reason why it's not more than an A- is because he's not an offensive coach, which I really wanted with a new rookie quarterback coming in. You look at the numbers between quarterbacks that play under defensive head coaches versus offensive head coaches. The numbers aren't great. However, when it comes to defensive head coaches, I don't know if they could have done better than Dan Quinn. He's an excellent leader of men. He's one of the most respected men in football, which is why he was able to assemble such an incredible staff. And then also he's a really innovative defensive mind that I think is going to allow this Commanders defensive roster to punch above its weight. And then when eventually they get the kind of roster they want, they're going to be really be able to rock and roll. Then we get to the coordinator hires here. They get Cliff Kingsbury, former Arizona Cardinals head coach and USC quarterbacks coach from last year, get him as the OC. And then Joe Witt Jr. was the secondaries coach there with the Dallas Cowboys, coming over here to Washington with his former boss there in Dan Quinn. He's the new defensive coordinator and play caller, by the way. So let's break down these offensive coordinator hires, starting with Cliff Kingsbury. I'm going to give it a B-. Okay, and the reason why it's a B- is because I'm not the biggest fan of Cliff Kingsbury. I have really just 3 specific problems with Cliff and his philosophy. The first is that it's extremely stagnant, his offensive philosophy. There's not a lot of motion. There's not a lot of innovative concepts. It's pretty cookie cutter, air raid style of offense, okay? Now, he did do some interesting things, his final year in Arizona, and I'm hoping to see some of the QB run game stuff used with Jayden Daniels, but really stagnant offense, lack of adjustments. You look at his career record in games in the second half of the season versus the first half. It's not good whatsoever. Hopefully, now that he's just an OC and not a head coach, he has more time to make those adjustments, but that's not a strength of his. And then the quarterback development hasn't been a strength of his either. Patrick Mahomes was the most raw quarterback prospect coming into the NFL. People were saying the Chiefs completely destroyed their franchise by trading up to number 10 to get Mahomes because he was that raw after playing 3 years at Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury. He had to go to Andy Reid and sit for a year to fix himself, where we found out he was the best quarterback of this generation. So I don't love the quarterback development resume from Cliff Kingsbury. And because of that, they needed to get a quarterback that was pretty well polished already. And to their credit, they did that in Jayden Daniels, in my opinion. I think he's a good fit. I think that what we've seen from Cliff Kingsbury and his offense is that if you have an extremely talented quarterback like a Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, like Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, like Kyler Murray with the Arizona Cardinals, those super talented quarterbacks that can make plays out of structure, they can work in this offense. And I think Jayden Daniels is that type of guy. He doesn't need a whole lot of development with footwork or throwing mechanics or mental processing. He's already pretty darn good. Not to say he's a complete product and he won't get better. He will. But I think that this is a really good fit between quarterback and OC. And when it comes to the defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr., I'll give it an A. He's one of the most respected defensive minds in football. This is his first chance to be a defensive coordinator. Absolutely well-deserved. And I think he's extremely smart and innovative with the way he thinks, especially about defensive fronts. Now, who's with me now? Get down there in the comments section and type me in all caps if you agree with me here and you think that this coaching staff is pretty darn good. If you think and if you believe in this Washington Commanders coaching staff and you think that they can win and they can win relatively quickly with this coaching staff, let me know down there in the comments section by typing me. So the overall front office slash coaching grade for me is an A. I think that you get the right GM in Adam Peters. Hopefully he's the right GM anyway. He had a good resume, and then you get some good coaches, especially Dan Quinn, who I think is a great culture builder. I think he can do something similar to the Commanders culture that Dan Campbell did with the culture there with the Detroit Lions. All right, now we're on to NFL free agency, where there's pretty much no other team that was more busy than the Washington Commanders. However, despite the quantity of players they brought in, I'm not too sure if they made like the kind of quality signings that were like big time splashes, right? There's some signings that I really liked. I really liked the Frankie Louvu signing. Bobby Wagner as a culture builder and setter is going to be really nice in this defense as well. Jeremy Chin, I think, is a perfect fit for Dan Quinn's bandit role, which is essentially a safety slash hybrid linebacker role. Dorrance Armstrong was a good rotational edge rusher for the Cowboys. Same thing with Dante Fowler. Austin Eckler, somebody that's been very productive in this league. Tyler Biadasz, Nick Allegretti, Marcus Mariota, and Michael Davis are all guys that have starting experience in the league. But, man, I'm just not too sure if you're really looking at any of these signings and saying, wow, this is completely going to move the needle for the Commanders, where now they're going to be like legitimate contenders in the NFC East. You also get a new kicker in Brandon McManus, and then you get some other pieces in here like Farrell and Reeves. That's a really good special teams player. Cornelius Lucas is being brought back. Same thing with Jamison Crowder. Olamide Zaccheaus is an interesting slot receiver. Michael Dieter, is good backup depth here at the interior of the offensive line. Then all these guys on screen right now are pretty much going to be depth pieces for the Washington Commanders. So even though there's a lot of players that have been added to this roster via free agency, I'm not too sure there is a whole lot of, big-time splash signings. And that's my biggest gripe with the Washington Commanders here during free agency. They didn't have a lot of splash signings, and despite having the most money out of any team in the National Football League. And then number two, they didn't get a top edge rusher. I mean, you had all the money in the world to go out and get Danielle Hunter, and apparently they weren't even looking at him. I mean, what are we doing here, man? And you get Dorrance Armstrong, who was not even a full-time starter with Dallas, and the same thing with Dante Fowler Jr., and those are your two big edge rusher signings? I mean, come on now. I mean, we need to get something a little bit better than that, especially if you're going to be trading away Montez Sweat and Chase Young at the trade deadline last year. And, the lack of big-time moves really does concern me, specifically with this free agency class. At the end of the day, you got to build through the draft, and I think that's what the Commanders are really thinking about here. But the lack of big-time moves when it comes to this free agency class, it definitely is concerning to me at this point in time. And it's definitely going to lower my grade in terms of how I think about this free agency class for the Washington Commanders, because like I said, man, there's just not a whole lot of big needle moving type moves, even though they had the most cap space in the league to go out and make those kinds of moves. So because I think that they left a little bit of meat on the bone when it comes to free agency this year, I'm going to give it a C-, all right? And it's not like it was a terrible free agency period, but I will say I was a little bit disappointed with the way that they didn't address cornerback by getting a big-time cornerback name. They didn't get a top edge rusher, and they really addressed a lot of middling positions like interior of the offensive line. And the guys that they got, Nick Allegretti has never been a full-time starter. He's expected to be the starting left guard for this football team. And, I just think it's a little bit concerning that they didn't go out and get more established names out there on the market. So still to come here on the Commanders Report, the Commanders 2024 NFL Draft grades for me here, and then also my overall offseason grade for the Washington Commanders. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. Go to chatsports.com/Daniels to get an officially licensed Jayden Daniels Commanders jersey in your closet today. Fanatics makes really good stuff, man, and it comes at a very reasonable price. And also, if you use our link, chatsports.com/Daniels, I'll put that link in the comments and description. It lets Fanatics know we sent you, and they'll help support the show. So I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. If you want to help out the show today and get a Jayden Daniels jersey in your closet today, you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels. So now let's talk about the NFL draft for the Commanders, because there are some moves that I liked, and then there's other moves that I think, maybe left a little bit to be desired. So we'll start with Jayden Daniels, who I love. Okay, that's an easy A+ grade for me. He was my number 2 quarterback. He was the guy I would have taken number 2 overall if I had the choice, and I think that was a home run. We don't have to spend too much time on him. Then we get Johnny Newton. Defensive tackle out of Illinois, and this one was kind of confusing to some people because you have Daron Payne and you have Jonathan Allen, but I actually think Dan Quinn sees Johnny Newton as almost like a 5-technique, 3-4 defensive end type, 285 pounds or around that. We'll see where he is after his surgery and when he gets back on the field. But, man, this guy's athletic. He's a really ravenous pass rusher, and then also at that size on the edge as a defensive end, he's going to be really good against the run as well, being able to set those edges. I love this pick from the Washington Commanders. It's an incredible value. I'm going to give it an A. But then pick number 40, you give the pick to the Philadelphia Eagles so that they can take Cooper DeJean. I mean, I hate this move by Adam Peters, man. You don't help out your enemies in this way, especially when they already took Quinion Mitchell in round 1. Cooper DeJean's going to be one of the best nickel corners in the league from the word go, and you're just going to hand them to him? I mean, what are we doing here, man? You look at the trade details. It's not like you got like a king's ransom for this. Yes, you upgraded one of your third-round picks technically into a second-round pick by doing this, but, I'm not a big fan of what the Commanders did with this trade, giving a division rival a very key piece that's going to be a starter for them day one. I mean, if you're going to do this, and I said this at the time, you better get high-value players that are going to be contributors for you right away. And unfortunately, I don't think the Commanders really capitalized on this opportunity the way that I would have liked. So for me personally, guys, this trade grade for me is going to be a C-, man. Some of the players that you ended up getting I like, but, you're giving Cooper DeJean, one of the best corners in this draft class, at a value to a division rival. So for me personally, I don't like that very much. Then we get to the picks that the Commanders got in exchange for trading down. And you get Mike Sainristil, the slot corner out of Michigan. Love his game. It's not a very high value position, but he's a very good player. And he's going to be really good right out of the box. He'll be a day one starter. You can blitz him off the slot. He's going to be really good in man coverage. No problems taking him there at number 50. Good player. But then you get a tight end that's probably going to be sitting for most of his rookie season here in Ben Sinnott. I mean, I probably would have rather gotten an outside corner or an edge rusher at this point, somebody that had a better chance to really make an impact day one. But at the end of the day, Sinnott, he's got great quickness. He's got very high upside. So at the end of the day, it's not the worst pick in the world. I'll give it a B-. Then Brandon Coleman at number 67, I'll give it a C. I think that his foot speed is unremarkable. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be a true tackle in the league. Plus, he had a very poor 2023 campaign and Senior Bowl performance. I'm not too sure if he'll be able to survive at tackle in the league. Then we got Luke McCaffrey, and I had better grades on guys like Troy Franklin, Taj Washington, Malik Washington at this point, and I had a 6th-round grade on McCaffrey because, in my opinion, he looks slow on tape, man. I know he tested well, but he didn't look great getting out of his breaks. And he just wasn't really getting open even against the kind of competition he was playing at Rice. So that's a D for me. Then we got Jordan McGee in round 5, an A-. Athletic guy, probably going to be sitting year one, but a potential starter down the line. Then we got Dominique Hampton as a safety, another highly athletic guy, another guy that's going to be sitting a year, definitely developmental type. And then you finish it out with Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the defensive end. For what this is worth, a 7th-round pick, I think this is a pretty good selection. So overall here, I'm going to give the grade for the draft a B. I didn't like the trade down with Philly. I didn't like that you didn't get a number 1 edge rusher. You didn't get a true left tackle that I believe in. But at the end of the day, when you get a guy like Jayden Daniels, who could be a superstar quarterback, that's going to move up the grade quite a bit. And at the end of the day, you are adding valuable pieces to this roster. So my take on the draft here is that obviously when you have this many picks, it's hard to mess them all up, right? You're bringing in some really solid talents into this Commanders locker room. However, I do think you left some meat on the bone. We went into it expecting the Commanders to target left tackle and edge rusher early, and instead, after taking the quarterback, they take a slot corner and a tight end, and then by the time you get to the 3rd round, you're left with the scraps of Brandon Coleman. That's something I didn't like. I wanted to go out and get somebody better. They failed to do that, so that's one of the things I didn't like about this draft, and that's just my biggest gripe with the whole situation. So now it's my turn here to give my official offseason grade for the Commanders. Now, before I get into it, who's with me here? Let me know down there in the comments section and grade this offseason for the Commanders. What is your overall offseason grade for this team? Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Let me know what you guys are feeling down there in the comments section. And for me, my overall offseason grade is a B for this team, okay? I'm not going to sit up here and say it was a perfect offseason because it wasn't, all right? They had a lot of holes to fill. Obviously, they had the most money in free agency. They had a bunch of early draft picks. They had an opportunity to really turn this around in even 1 year, right? If you would have gotten a number 1 edge rusher and a number 1 corner along with what you got in free agency this year, I mean, you'd be set up really nicely. And then if you don't trade down with Cooper DeJean, if you end up drafting a tackle that has a brighter future, in my opinion, than Brandon Coleman, if you make some of these picks and you do some things better, I think this team, instead of being a team that could be good down the road, could be good right now. But at the end of the day, man, what I like is that this team does have a bright future. They have a good head coach in Dan Quinn who's great in terms of the culture building stuff. You got a quarterback that's extremely talented in Jayden Daniels. I think you have a good coaching staff that fits what they want to do with the guys on the roster right now. And I really like the trajectory that this team is going on. However, what I don't like is that there was some missed opportunities by new GM Adam Peters to make this team better and more competitive immediately in free agency, in my opinion. I mean, they had the most cap space. They pretty much still have the most cap space in the NFL, and they ended up signing a bunch of guys that have been cast-offs or they're getting older or all these different things instead of really splurging on some really top-end players that could have made this team a lot better immediately. And then in the draft, there were some missed opportunities there as well. So for me, guys, there's still some holes left on this Commanders roster heading into the 2024 season. Left tackle is still a major issue, as we have talked about on the show repeatedly. Outside corner. I mean, if Emmanuel Forbes doesn't have a good sophomore season, I think the Commanders are really in trouble when it comes to the outside cornerback position. Also, edge rusher is another position that's kind of, a big question mark. I mean, will Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell, and Dante Fowler Jr. really be able to pick up the slack of Montez Sweat and Chase Young? Then you got left guard, Nick Allegretti. I mean, he's never been a full-time starter. Are we really expecting him to come in and be a really solid piece? I'm not too sure. And then right tackle as well. Andrew Wiley gave up 9 sacks last year. He's still the starting right tackle for this football team. And then tight end, I mean, Zach Ertz is pretty much a carcass at this point in his career. And then you have a rookie in Ben Sinnott. And if you know anything about rookie tight ends, they're usually not super productive. So tight end is still a major hole on this football team as well. So in the end, I'm excited for this team. All right, I know that I've been critical of some things that Adam Peters has done in this video, but at the end of the day, I am excited for this team moving forward, and I cannot wait to see them play in 2024 and see what this team can flourish into under Dan Quinn as their head coach. All right, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys sticking with me here to the very end of today's show. I know it was a little bit of a longer one, so make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more in-depth Commanders analysis just like today's video every single day. All right, so we got 2 down, 1 to go. It's the mailbag here. So, Triz, I was a little bit hard on Adam Peters for some of the things that he did, trading Cooper DeJean to Philly and, not getting an offensive tackle earlier and, not getting an edge rusher earlier. What are your thoughts on the Commanders offseason here, and where do you think the trajectory is going here heading into next season?
Oh, looky there. Tom Downey decided to join the party. I do think that the Cowboys are on the major down and the Commanders on the major up right now. I will say that it's going to take a lot of success from some players that need to step up.
Yeah.
And I do think that the trajectory and the arrows are pointing up for Washington.
Yes.
I think that they did a good job of resetting the culture this offseason more than anything. And I think that's what you have to do to build the foundation for a winning culture. So will we see immediate success, 10, 12, 13 wins?
No.
I don't think so. But will we see more wins than last year? Will we see more wins build up? Will we see better overall play?
Don't get me wrong here, folks. This is a better football team than what it was last year.
Much better.
Much better. The coaching, as I've talked about, has been fantastic. Tom Downey wants us to put the Cowboys report on the F the Cowboys hat, so much obliged here, Tom. No problem. We got, you know what, I'm going to put Tom Downey right at the top of the hat here. How about that? We'll put Tom Downey right at the top of the hat. But yeah, man, I do think that this is a team that has a bright future. I think that there was some missed opportunities to maybe make it even better. There was opportunities at left tackle. There still is even. You could get Bakhtiari or Smith, and that'd be better than what you have right now. I mean, Dan Moore Jr. from the Steelers, if you trade a 7th-round pick for him, I think would be pretty good. So this offseason isn't over by any stretch of the imagination, and I do think this team will have a better record than what they had last year.
No doubt.
No doubt. The quarterback's going to be better. The coaching is going to be way better. I think the defense is going to be much better. And I just think that this team is going to have to take another year, though. It's not going to be like a Houston Texans 1-year turnaround where you're going from, picking second in the draft to winning a playoff game. I don't see that for this team this year. I think they need another year to build the offensive line. They probably need another year to really get their guys on defense. I think that it's going to take another year to get Jayden Daniels comfortable in the National Football League. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be covering it every step of the way here on the Commanders Report. We're going to be having watch parties for every single game that we can. And watching Jayden Daniels use his legs is going to be something I cannot wait because it's going to be electric, okay?
Absolutely.
It's just going to be awesome. So, I was a little bit harsh on Adam Peters for some of the lack of moves that he did during free agency. But honestly, I think that's warranted.
See, I agree. You have to be critical and you have to look at things not with colored lenses.
Yeah.
You can't just look at it and be like, wow, it was better than it was. Well, wasn't much. Like, that's not saying a lot.
Yeah.
It is definitely a lot better. But we need to see the results.
Absolutely.
We need to see what they can do on the field on a week in, week out basis.
Yeah, and last year I was kind of the first one in line here where I said, this is probably going to be a bad year for the Commanders. I mean, Sam Howell was unproven. The offensive line looked like it was not going to be good, and I said so here on this channel, and I took a lot of flack for that, saying, Jack, you're being too hard on this team. Sam Howell's going to ball out. The offensive line, they clearly believe in Chris Paul for a reason. All these different things. And, it just didn't work out. And then the defense was way worse than I expected.
No.
And when you combine the poor offense with the poor defense, you got what you got with this Commanders team last year.
Second worst team in the NFL.
But I'm very excited about the trajectory and the direction that Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels are going to be putting this team on this year. And yes, they might win 6 or 7 games this year and miss the playoffs. But this year is all about growth. This year it's about setting a foundation for future success, all right? So if you're going into the season hoping that they're going to get 13, 12 wins and they're going to win the division and all these different things, I think that's probably not going to happen. I hope it does. I mean, that'd be great. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of fun here on this show if that ends up happening. But I just think a lot of things a lot of questions need to be answered in a positive way in order for that to even be a possibility. So I'm excited. If you got questions about my offseason grades or whatever I had to say, use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat down there in the chat right now. And if you want to call me out on my bullshit here and you want to say I'm wrong and I'm a big idiot and I shouldn't be allowed to talk football, put it hashtag Commanders down there, and we'll put it on the show, all right? I want to hear your guys' opinions, whether you think the Commanders are going to be a playoff caliber team, if you think they can win a playoff game, if you think Jayden Daniels is just going to light it up and have the best rookie season we've ever seen. I want to know what you guys think about this football team because I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that in the future, this team has what it takes to be a perennial powerhouse in the NFC, but because they didn't take advantage of the many opportunities they had during the offseason this year, I think it's going to take another year.
Absolutely.
I think this year, a good way to think of this year, Trace, is I think it's going to be year one of the Dan Campbell era there in Detroit. Okay, because we know right now the Lions, they might win the Super Bowl this year. Right? They have built that organization the way that they wanted to over the course of many seasons. But the first year, they barely won it all because they didn't have the right personnel. It was a first year of a new culture, all these different things. They had, it was just a mess.
No doubt.
Okay, so I'm not saying it's going to be a mess this year. I think it's going to be better than what the Lions' first season was under Campbell. But it's going to probably take another year or two.
There'll be some growing pains.
There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some lumps, but there's also going to be a lot of awesome moments. There's going to be a lot of great runs from Jayden Daniels. Okay, so how are we doing on questions here? Are we about ready to go?
No. We have one question. 2 questions now. So
we have 2 questions?
Yeah, get your questions in. Hashtag Commanders. Make sure you spell Commanders right, too.
Hashtag Commanders, 2 M's, all right? Make sure you guys get those questions down there. Once we have enough questions, we'll get into the mailbag today.
We have a few more.
I was going to say, I thought I saw more.
A few more piling in. I also want to take a quick second to chirp the Cowboys Report and Tom Downey. They sent in their first time Super Chat ever on YouTube to this channel, so we clearly live rent-free in their heads.
Oh, absolutely.
Suck it, Tom.
Absolutely. And by the way, you know what, Tom? I know you love the Bean-Boozleds, all right? You sent in a 20, so Triz and I both need to do a Bean-Boozled here. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Here's yours. Oh, no, it fell on the ground.
Oh, no!
Do you see it, or do you need another one?
I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is.
All right, which one did you get? I got, oh, my God, no.
I think I got puke.
I've got either barf or dead fish. What color is yours?
Yellow.
Oh, so yellow is the rotten egg.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Got to show it. God damn it, man. All right, here we go, down the hatch. For you, Tom.
Suck it, Downey.
Well, yours is buttered popcorn. That's still gross. Or is it rotten egg?
It's very rotten egg.
Extra rotten. You know the rules. You have to finish it, dude.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's bad.
Oh, my God. So I think that one was dead fish for me. I had barf earlier. That one was definitely dead fish. Barf tastes worse than that one, but
That was horrible.
Oh, boy, that one sucks, man. All right, while we're in the mailbag, you guys can still get your questions on the show at any point by using hashtag Commanders or super chatting to skip the line. We're going to get into it right now. Triz, we got enough questions here? All right, let's get it, man. We got the last segment on today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports with our mailbag coming at you. What's up? Oh, my goodness, man. This computer today, man. Slow. Let's get it going, man. We got enough questions. I mean, I just set the world on fire here saying that I didn't like every move Adam Peters made this offseason. Let's see what people have to say. All right, we good now? All right, let's get into it right now. This Commanders Report mailbag is coming at you right here on YouTube. Today, I'm answering your questions on the burgundy and gold. Welcome in to the Commanders Report. And today, man, this is my favorite segment because I get to talk to you guys, the Commanders fans, here on YouTube. I get to answer your questions on all the different stuff going around OTAs, around Jayden Daniels, around all the young players that this team has interjected into this roster this year. And I can't wait to see what you got for me on this week's edition of the Commanders Report mailbag. But before we get into it, man, make sure you click that subscribe button right now to join the most interactive Commanders fan community right here on the YouTube platform. We got over 15,000 Commanders fans already subscribed to the channel. We have live shows every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, where you guys can get your questions on the show, have your voice heard, all these different things. We got a great community of Commanders fans for you guys to join right now, and all you got to do is click that subscribe button. So with that, I'll pause and open it up for questions. We got one from commanders.prod at DZZ. Says, hashtag Commanders, any more trade rumors specifically about DK Metcalf? Honestly, man, I think the Commanders are probably good with where they're at the wide receiver position. It's always fun to talk about the DK Metcalfs and all these different guys that the Commanders could target at the wide receiver position, but that's a pretty darn big contract. He's going to be due another new contract here coming up soon. That's going to be a lot of money. And you already have Terry McLaurin. I think this team believes in Johan Dotson and even De'Ami Brown, who I think is a really good fit for Jayden Daniels' skill set. So I don't think DK Metcalf's in the cards. A, I don't think the Commanders want to go get him. And then B, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are going to be willing to deal him. Then we got one from Demarius Young. What's up, Demarius? Good to see you, my friend. Says, what does the offensive tackle look like right now? So it looks like Cornelius Lucas is probably going to start week 1. Brandon Coleman is who this team is hoping develops into their future left tackle, but I'm skeptical of that, man. He's had injuries, which has affected his ability to move effectively. So he's got the long arms. I thought he tested really well, but his performance at the Senior Bowl was absolutely atrocious. He graded super poorly at TCU his final season there at the Horned Frogs. I think he's going to have to take at least a year to sit the bench and kind of learn and develop. And even then, he might not be ready. So, it looks like Lucas is going to be the guy, unless they want to go out and get a David Bakhtiari or a Donovan Smith in free agency, or if they want to move Sam Cosmi to left tackle. That's certainly a possibility too, but, Cosmi's the only legitimate starter on this offensive line right now. Moving him to tackle would certainly be a risk. So it looks like Cornelius Lucas, and it's not looking great. Then we got one from Mad Max here. He says, does it make sense to bring in wide receiver Michael Thomas? It's an interesting question because, instead of trading like a first-round pick for DK Metcalf or whatever it would cost to get him, you could get Michael Thomas for close to the vet minimum right now, and he provides something that there's not a whole lot of in the Commanders wide receiver room right now, and that's size, okay? Like the tallest receiver that they have right now, I believe, is Luke McCaffrey. Okay, and, he's bigger, but, he's not necessarily ready to take on, like, a true X role in this offense. Michael Thomas could be that guy, and he could be a red zone threat. I wouldn't mind it at all, especially if you get him for close to the league minimum. Michael Thomas is somebody that's still a good player when he's healthy, so, just give Jayden Daniels another weapon. I wouldn't hate it whatsoever. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you sign wide receiver Michael Thomas for close to the league minimum? Type S for sign or type P for pass. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. Then we got one from Greg Coles here. It says, do you think Johan Dotson will achieve 1,000 yards receiving next season? I hope so, man. I hope so. If I'd have to guess, I think he's going to come just short. And the reason why I say that is because I think Terry McLaurin's going to get a lot of the production. Okay, and then another thing to consider here is you have a rookie quarterback playing against kind of a porous offensive line. Okay, like especially the left side of the offensive line is not in good shape right now, and there's going to be pressure put on Daniels, who's a rookie quarterback. He's going to be going up against the speed of NFL defenses for the first time. I'm just not sure if there's going to be enough production to go around for two 1,000-yard receivers. So I think Dotson will he'll have a bounce-back season. He'll show a lot of promise, and he'll solidify himself as the number 2 option in this wide receiver room. But 1,000 yards, I think, is probably a little bit rich for Johan Dotson this year. Then we got one from Easy T Tactical, who says, who do you think Jayden Daniels will gel with more this year, Terry or Johan Dotson? So I think it's going to be Scary Terry because he's the better receiver. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think that Dotson won't have a good year. I mean, once again, like I just said, I think that he's going to have a bounce-back year. I think he will solidify himself as the number 2 receiver on this team. But Scary Terry, I mean, you can make an argument he's a top 10 receiver in football, and he's just never had a good quarterback throwing him the football. He's had guys like Wentz, Heineke, Howell. I mean, these are the guys that are throwing the ball to Terry McLaurin. I mean, come on now. I think if you give him a legit top 10 quarterback like I think Jayden Daniels can be, he's going to be a top 10 receiver in the league. He's awesome, man. And I think he's the whole package. I think he'll have another good year this year. And I think maybe next year, not this year, but in 2025 is really when he has like super, like the all-pro caliber season that we want from him. Then we got one from the CEO of Chat Sports here, James Yoder. He says, Mikey Sainristil equals a better Honey Badger. Prove me wrong. And honestly, man, I think Sainristil is an awesome player, dude. I really do. He's so good as a blitzer from the slot, really good in man coverage, really smart player as well. And the thing that's scary about Mike is that he's relatively new to the position, okay? And, he was so good from the slot, even though he really didn't have much experience playing there. So the instincts are certainly there. I mean, I don't hate that comparison whatsoever. I think Sainristil might be, would it be crazy to say he's the best defensive player on the Commanders this year? I honestly don't think that's entirely crazy. You got Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, who are pretty darn good as well. But, Mike Sainristil, I think he's going to be one of the best nickel corners in football from the word go. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We got daily Commanders news and rumors videos here on the channel for you guys to enjoy. We have breaking news coverage every time the Commanders make a big move. We have a weekly live show every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then it's all 100% free. So if you bleed burgundy and gold, you love the Washington Commanders, and you think that this team has a bright future, and you want to become an expert on this team, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. All right, so we got one from JG. He says, will Mike Sainristil have a problem with hip drop rule change? I think the entire NFL is going to have a problem with this, especially the start. And it's going to be another one of these adjustments, right? There was an adjustment period when they had the new rules for hitting the quarterback, and I think teams have adjusted to that relatively well at this point. I think the same thing's going to happen with hit drops. Where there's going to be some really crucial calls late in games that decide some of these football games because these guys are so used to having that type of tackle in their arsenal where there's just going to be instinctual, triggers in their brain to just go to that, and there's going to be penalties. But I think 3-4 years down the line, I think the game's probably going to be safer, and hopefully they can find other ways to get the opposing player to the ground. Then we got one from Mike Honcho. Oh my gosh, what a great name right here. What a great profile here. Mike Honcho says, what would you consider to be a fair trade offer for Jonathan Allen? So I don't think the Commanders trade John this offseason. I think that they see him. I think that what their plan is right now is to play Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and Johnny Newton, who they just drafted in the second round this year, all at the same time. I think they want them on the field all at the same time. And then they're going to put Dorrance Armstrong on the edge, and then they'll probably have another like linebacker type, like either Jamin Davis or Frankie Louvu, kind of creeping up at the line of scrimmage. So that's going to be their plan. And I think that's a good plan. So with that plan, okay, Jonathan Allen's a crucial part of that. So with 2 years left on his deal, I don't think he gets traded. And if you listen to him in his press conference earlier this week, he's reinvigorated, man. He loves Dan Quinn, the new head coach. He loves where this team is going. I don't think Jonathan Allen's going anywhere. So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Jonathan Allen get traded sometime during this offseason or during this year in general? Type yes or no for me down there in the comments section to give me your answer when it comes to this question. All right, so we got one more question here, or a couple more questions from Jonathan Taylor here. Says, does Luke McCaffrey go over 300 yards receiving? It's going to be tough, man. It's going to depend on how fast he rises up the ranks. Because honestly, I didn't love his tape. I had a 6th-round grade on him. He looked slow to me on film. He's not the best in terms of route running at this point in his journey, in my opinion. But he's big. He's physical. I guess he's got that for him. He tested well, so he's a good straight-line athlete at least. So, I think with the kind of receiving talent the Commanders have at the 1 and 2 with McLaurin and Dotson, I think that's going to eat up a lot of the receptions. I'm not sure if McCaffrey gets to 300. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and I hope that he develops into a nice player and he can get over 300. But I think it's going to be more of a sit-and-learn kind of year for Luke McCaffrey. Oh, and then we got a $100 super chat from IQ Barbecue. Let's go, baby. Everybody shout out IQ Barbecue down there in the comments section. Just type IQ for me to show some love to this $100 super chat for Mr. IQ Barbecue. And make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, you click that subscribe button, you support our channel, you watch our shows, and of course if you watch our shows, that clicking that thumbs up icon is the fastest and easiest way to help out our channel, so I greatly appreciate all of your support. Then we got one from Dr. Rick Marshall. It says, which player, if any, do you think is the most likely for the Commanders to trade for this offseason? See, the thing is, man, the Commanders, I think, are probably pretty good with where they're at. What I'll say is Dan Moore Jr. And if you don't know who Dan Moore Jr. is, he was the starting left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers the last several seasons, actually. Hasn't graded amazingly, but he's still a really young player. He's gotten better, arguably, every year of his career. And the Steelers just spent 2 consecutive first-round picks on offensive tackles. So I think he's available via trade. You can probably get him for a 6th or a 7th-round pick. And he would immediately make that left tackle situation way better than what it is right now with Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman. So that's what I'll say. Dan Moore Jr., Pittsburgh Steelers offensive tackle. So let me know down there in the comments section, what player do you still want the Commanders to add at this point in the offseason? Is it Michael Thomas? Is it somebody else? Is it DK Metcalf? Let me know down there in the comments section which player you want Washington to acquire before the season starts. That'll be it for this week's mailbag, guys. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. I love doing these every single week. I love talking with you guys. Love getting your concerns, all this different stuff, getting your questions. So really do appreciate your support. And if you want to get your question on next week's mailbag, you can go ahead and click that subscribe button and join us next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern to get your question on the next edition of the Commanders Report Mailbag. Oh! This one's coming in from IQ Barbecue! Bang! Give it up for IQ! Everybody spam IQ down there in the chat. Show some love, baby.
$100 super chat. Let's go, baby.
$100, which of course means 5.
Lovely.
5 Bean-Boozled. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna eat 5 at the same time.
Perfect.
All right, we're gonna eat 5 of these babies at the same time, a piece for Mr. IQ Barbecue. All right. So let me get your 5 going here.
I am not looking forward to this. But here we go. Go away, Siri.
All right, here we go. Here's your 5.
Sweet Jesus. I see a rotten egg.
All right, I'm not looking.
Possibly a barf.
Is this 5? Yeah, it's 5.
Liver and onions.
All right, I've got a liver and onions, a barf, a dead fish, and then 2 rotten eggs. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
I have 2 liver and onions.
IQ, I love you, man, but I also hate you, man. Goodness gracious. All right. Cheers, my friends. We got the beans. All right. And by the way, you know the rules. You got to finish it. You got to finish it all. Oh, shit. I spit one of them out. Oh!
I actually might get sick. I actually might.
Dude.
I need some water. I actually might get
Rocket Man, I'm not cheating. I just swallowed it. I just swallowed it all. Pause. Oh my. It's like in my teeth.
Dude.
It's
when
like
it stays there, it's like it won't go away.
You know how like your garbage, like after it's been sitting out in the sun for like a day or two smells? That's what it tastes like in my mouth right now.
That's the perfect description. That is atrocious.
IQ, man. God,
I love you, but I hate you, man.
I love you, my friend. Thank you for the $100 super chat, but I freaking hate you. F the Cowboys, as always, folks. That's going to be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report. I can't even wear this. Get this going here. All right.
F the Cowboys.
F them Cowboys, man. All right, that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you to everybody that tuned in with us to the very end here. I got to go eat or drink something because my mouth tastes terrible right now. Pause. We'll see you guys later. Until next time, raise hail and hail to the Commanders.